morning, Ann. Thanks for
Glad
having
to
me.
see you. We were just talking a little bit about our history. What, 1999 did you go to work there?
May 9th, yeah, May 1999.
Yep.
It's been
yep.
a while.
Yeah, you were just kind of, I'd been on the board about, I think about a year, and you joined the health department.
I
So
was cutting my teeth as
you were
the
just a baby.
Director of Environmental Health
Right.
at the time.
So you've gone from septics to program administrator, right?
Yes, yeah, it's been exciting. A lot.
Well, you literally could say you went from the ground up.
That's perfect. I love it. That's
Good,
true.
good.
You can only go higher.
Good. Well, there's a lot to be said about that. Well, the health department's a good place to work. You've always had hardworking, caring, and I kind of always like your motto over there, a caring place.
Thank you.
And I think people need to know that when they walk in the door. It is a place where people do care.
Yes.
And it could be your environmental health, it could be your physical health, it could be your emotional well-being, your family.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is, there's kind of somebody there to talk to about it.
Well, we want to make sure when people come to us, and more often than not, they're in need of a service. They're in need of support or assistance in some way. It may not be an easy visit for them, and for them to come in and feel comfortable and respected and have dignity when they go through the process of looking for and receiving services is important.
Well, and that kind of falls in together with the fact that you are the program director. So explain a little bit about what you do exactly over there.
Well, really overseeing but mostly serving the directors and staff for our four main divisions. As you mentioned, we've got environmental health, doing most of our, in layman's terms, health inspector type inspections and permit reviews.
And that's septics and restaurants and
wells
wells, septics,
yeah.
restaurants, that whole thing that has to do with our well-being outside of our home.
Absolutely. And we've seen a lot, not to get off track, we just want to mention we've seen a lot of changes in that area too. As the county has evolved, we're seeing a lot of different and unique food offerings. And so the staff has had to learn and grow with that and understand how to ensure or help ensure food safety, but at the same time be very culturally conscious or competent, we call it, to ensure that they understand how food is prepared, especially from different cultures in different ways.
And that, as we've all become a little more diverse, and now you see a lot of food trucks.
Yes.
I mean, that seems to be, people have a craft show or some kind of an open house or at a big, and a half a dozen food trucks will pull in. Just seems to be a good way of kind of giving everybody that variety. That's a whole new world as far as inspection, isn't it?
It is. So they've evolved quite a bit, and then I think about our mental health services and how they've evolved. We do predominantly mental health and substance abuse or addictions treatment. We do outpatient to intensive outpatient treatment or counseling. We have psychiatry and psychology on staff. And they too have seen kind of an evolution of the work that they do, not the least of which has been the opioid epidemic or crisis that we call it. That's been very difficult.
And not only just the opioids, but again now these school shootings and
yes.
I think, I hate to say this, but to me, the way things are going, it's only a matter of time where this is going to get closer to home.
Yeah.
I hope and pray that it's not, that our young people are going to come to their senses, but it really concerns me.
Well, I think part of that puzzle, of course, is the community being plugged into what mental illness might be or look like. And we try to provide some training too as well. There's some good programs out there to try and help people get help early on, and whether it be a victim of bullying or the person doing the bullying all the way up to people just struggling in general and feeling outcasted. But yeah, that is a concern. I talked to my son about it last week a little bit, and what concerns me the most is it's kind of the new world order, and I think that the kids today, the high schoolers perhaps, are even just a bit numb to it because it just doesn't, it seems like,
And I don't want to digress, and I know that you're not a psychologist, psychiatrist, but I had read an article not too long ago that said that young people, and everything changes, how we all grew up and how fast we were almost pushed into maturity by the way things were when we all grew up at different times. But they talked about some of the young people today that their brains fully aren't developed until they're almost 25 to really grasp consequences and to be able to really truly feel the emotional part of what it's like for loss or for some of the price you might pay for mistakes. And when you can sell a kid a gun in Arkansas at age 16, you just wonder about that.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the Second Amendment ever had anything to say about that. But anyway, I don't want to digress. Some of these services, and we talked about the environmental, we've talked about the psychiatric and psychology. What other services?
Well, we've got our community action staff, and they do a great job of assisting people to be more self-sufficient in the community. That could be through assistance with energy bills, but more importantly, trying to teach them how to conserve energy and to become, again, more self-sufficient. It's really not a handout that we're trying to create here, but it's just a hand up, and to try and get them perhaps in line with a job or in line with some education, so they can better themselves and get to the point where they can take care of themselves and their families.
Yeah, and I always enjoy having your energy assistance lady on. Oh, why is her name escaping me now?
Melissa Kramer?
No.
Or Diane Elford?
Diane Elford, who works both in Kendall and Grundy
Yeah.
counties with the health department to do that for the LIHEAP program. And really impressive, some of the stuff that they can
Yeah.
check into and the grants that are given to help people with that.
Absolutely, and it's interesting that all of this started back in Lyndon B. Johnson era with the war on poverty.
Yeah.
And these programs continue to work. So, and then in addition to that, we've got our community health staff, and we have nurses and nutritionists on staff primarily, and support staff in that division. And they're doing maternal child nutrition counseling,
Right.
as well as immunizations.
And you guys do kind of get involved in the WIC program too?
Yeah, WIC and what's called family case management. So
Right.
it's just making sure that mom and baby, and dad too, have the best startup possible as they
Right.
go in through that first phase of the life of the baby.
And you probably wouldn't have these statistics, but I understood that the birth rate of single mothers, of mothers having babies out of what we used to call or so-called wedlock, without being married, has dropped.
Yeah, I can't confirm that,
Yeah.
but that wouldn't surprise me based on the clientele that we see. And I mentioned dads because I really appreciate the fact that we do have more and more family coming in. We have more dads coming in, taking some responsibility for the raising of the child.
Yeah, and if only the courts were a little fairer to the fathers out there, I think things could even improve that much more. And that's talking from personal experience, believe me.
And we do communicable disease as well, surveillance. And so I think in coming out this morning, we thought about just how much we do, not just within the health department, but how much we do out in the community. And we just started up a new offering that came about through a partnership with Plano Schools, and that is to quarterly go out on Friday evenings with at least 2 staff, and we'll rotate and spend some time at their local community food pantry. So we can be on the premises to kind of promote our services, flesh out some needs, and really offer assistance where we can.
Well, I think that's a great idea, because stepping out into the community when people are coming in that you already know that they're in need, that they can find out that there's other services that could be provided to them, to, again, like you said, not so much a handout, but a hand up.
Yeah,
and, you know.
yeah, we find too that you know, there's many people out there that just don't have the ability, the time or the ability to come to the health department. So if we can try and at least bring some information out to the community, and in some cases we've brought services now out to the community.
In what way?
Well, last year we started up with offering a counselor on the premises at one of the Plano middle schools, and that was just for a Friday, each Friday for a half a day. That morphed into us being at the Plano Police Department now every Friday from 8:30 until 12. We have one clinician there to see clients and our clients, and to just address any issues that might pop up while they're there, and support the police department.
Really?
And
So you might be talking about, but might be talking to a policeman who had to work a terrible accident that
Sure.
that is really needing to kind of download in his mind
Yeah.
what happened or what he saw, to someone who was maybe had been in domestic violence situation.
You've hit the nail on the head. And for us to be out there has provided some relief to those who just aren't able to get to. Kendall County is not that large,
No.
but to get, you know, to the center of Yorkville can be challenging for some. And
Yes, especially during just daytime hours or hours that are just not easy to
Yeah.
be able to accommodate themselves.
And soon, coming up, I believe in the next 6 months or so, we'll be at Oswego Police Department. When their new police department is fully constructed, they have created some office space for us there, so we can be out there on a weekly basis to serve our residents in that direction as well too. We have to be careful because we're really spreading ourselves around, but it's just such a benefit to try and increase that access to people.
Yeah, but I think the more that you're out there, the more people feel comfortable about the fact that if they do need, maybe they don't need you today, maybe they don't need you next week, but hearing that those services are available and there's somebody to turn to in a time of crisis or a time of need. You know, I don't think anybody ever wants to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's just
yeah,
not our nature. You know, we all have a certain amount of pride,
Yeah.
but to know that it's there has got to be able to, it's really got to help.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, you guys have a day coming up in the end of March, the 24th of March. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, March 24th is World Tuberculosis Day. That's been an event for years and years, and when this day comes around, typically it's a celebration of the amount of effort, time and effort that's gone into trying to eliminate tuberculosis throughout the world. But we also see it as a time to just raise the issue and the concern, and to not be complacent, because it's still out there, and it's something that we need to be very cognizant of. In fact, last year, 2016, was the first year that tuberculosis did not continue to decline as rapidly as it has been
Really?
for 23 years. It started to level off a little bit. So,
Now, are you talking worldwide?
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and when you look at the statistics about it, that year, 2016, was about 10.5 million individuals in the world have or had tuberculosis. In the United States, it's about over 9,000, and that comes out to about maybe 3 people per 100,000 population.
You know, I had read an article, and I'm glad you brought that up because it reminded me of something I had read in the New York Times on a Sunday. I'm a Sunday New York Times person, not an everyday person, but that the refugee camps, especially in Jordan and in Turkey, had TB was rampant because of the close proximity of everybody living there.
Yes.
And people forget that it's a very highly communicable disease.
Absolutely. And I think with the traveling, it's not just TB coming to us, but us going to it. With the traveling that we do,
Right.
Mexico, India, the Philippines, China and
the
Vietnam.
Mideast as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important if you do a lot of traveling, or if you spend a lot of time in congregate areas with high population density.
Right.
It's probably not a bad idea to get tested.
You know, and I just came back from Israel, and Israel is a very modern country in many ways, but kind of, when you know what, I don't care what we all say, Steve, there's nothing like the good old USA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everything isn't perfect here, but I can tell you that 27 out of our 47 people on our trip ended up with what I would say was probably the norovirus.
Mm.
A lot of buffets were used at the hotels that we went, which is just a highly contagious place of everybody picking up the same spoon, and using it. I never picked up a spoon that I didn't wrap the spoon first in a paper towel, just being very, but, those things, and not that can't happen here in this country, but I think people are I just noticed that overall, things are just less clean.
Well, and I guess to that point, when you come back home, you want to make sure that you keep it clean. And if you did have exposure while you were there and you come back, we've got to be careful that we don't begin to propagate that here as well, too.
Bring something with you.
Yeah, that's
there's
why
no doubt about it.
Understanding what you might be exposed to and taking precautions while you're there, and then at the same time when you come back, making sure that you continue to watch your signs and symptoms, your health, and yeah.
And I can't say that I saw a lot of what I would call poor people who were living in poverty. I'm sure there probably are. There probably were. Israel is such a small country; it's hard to miss much. But very dense areas. Very old cities. Where but trying very hard to modernize that country to make it. Water is an issue all over the Mideast, so I think that's another thing. But anyway, Steve, we got to take a little bit of a break.
Okay.
We're kind of running over here on our first half of our show. I'm here with Steve Curatti, Program Administrator from the Kendall County Health Department. We're going to take a break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Today, I'm here with Steve Curatti, Program Administrator for the Kendall County Health Department. And just before we took the break, we were talking a little bit about the different ways different people and countries live, and how I think America has really got some of the highest standards and I've traveled quite a bit. I'm not as worldly as a lot of people, but I've traveled to Europe several times, and always come back impressed. Other than Scandinavia beats us all when it comes to cleanliness and the way things are handled. And I also got to tell you that I think that they got, at the turn of the century, all the homely people from Scandinavia left, because there are nothing but good-looking people left over there.
Good gene pool.
Yeah, right. They called the homely ones, which included my family. Anyway, we're talking about some of these foodborne illnesses that, as you were working through environmental and stuff like that. Did you ever come across anything that we in this county had an outbreak of? Salmonella, botulism, the norovirus at the schools?
We've, by and large, I'd say we've been lucky to a good extent, but I would preface that by saying 2/3 of foodborne illness are not reported.
Oh.
And so part of the education we do is to make sure that the community understands what foodborne illness is. It's not uncommon to kind of disregard it as something that just didn't agree with you. So you might have received it in some way and just thought something didn't agree with my stomach, my tummy, and moved on from it. We did have an outbreak a couple of years back. It was a small one, but it was salmonella. And I think it's important to say that the cleanest restaurants can...
It can happen.
It can happen. You just have to be very careful about the food preparation and the holding of temperatures and so forth. Personal hygiene is right up there at the top. But we were able to nip that in the bud very quickly, and our community health staff and our environmental health staff worked very fast to kind of put the clamps on what was causing that.
Oh, oftentimes with food poisoning, it kind of hits you. Well, this may be a myth, and you may know about this and you may not, but someone said to me one time, the more virulent, whatever the word is, the food poisoning is, whether it's salmonella or noro or whatever, the quicker it hits you. Is there any truth to that?
There are some, we'll call them bugs for right now, that are they're infections, and then there are some that are intoxications. So an infection like a salmonella type bacteria might take 72 hours to kick in. But a infection-based, which usually involves some kind of a microbial toxin, like a staphylococcus, that could take several hours to 12 hours. Very quick onset.
Quick. Well,
very explosive,
yeah,
too.
Right. I've had food poisoning twice, which I can tell you was food poisoning. And both times that it hit me, it was one within about 6 to 8 hours, and the other one was probably 4 or 5 hours. And I mean, when it hit, it hit with violence.
Furious.
Yeah, furious. And the same thing happened to my brother. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't think I'd ever seen anybody that sick that fast. From when he ingested this food, which he said at the time, I don't know, I guess it's maybe just the spices. It may
Yeah,
be,
there you go.
Yeah, and maybe not, but I'll tell you what, he was as sick as anybody I'd ever seen. Now, I wanted to ask you sent a map,
Yeah.
and I'm going to just hold it up. It's probably not very, but this map has got hundreds of dots on it.
It does.
What does this signify?
That is outreach by the health department, and what we did was using the power of geographic information system mapping, GIS, and the county has a great GIS department. We were able to place the locations that we had visited through the course of the year on a map. And so that really signifies the stretch, the scope of the health department's reach and touch throughout the community. It was a nice visual for us to see and to share with our partners, and we just took a step back and said, boy, not everything happens at 811 West John Street. We are really out and about in the community as well, too, quite a bit.
Right.
We really put a high value on community communications, providing increased access to our services, and so we do a lot of work outside. But that's a nice graphic of that
the
effort.
hundreds of different places that you've reached out. And it's kind of funny when you're clear down on the other end of the county, here and there. I mean, it could be it could be septic, could be a well. I mean, it could be somebody who needs help psychologically, that needs somebody to step in and talk with them. It could be a death in the family. Obviously, you're bigger, or you're much busier up here in the northern 1/3 of the county.
Yeah,
that's
the more
where all the
populated
population
areas.
is at. But I just want to kind of go back to you a little bit, Steve. You've been with the health department for 19 years. You've certainly found a home there. Let's say that's you've worked your way literally from the ground up into administration. And what do you think is the thing that you enjoy the most?
I would have to say I've always loved the work.
Right.
So that's an easy answer right there. But the commitment and passion that I see from the staff at the health department, many of them have been there for quite some time. It seems that they're there to really help other people, and they get a lot of gratification out of that. So that really is inspiring to me, to come in each day and to work with these professionals who really care. And I'd also say it's a very diverse health department too. Kendall County's offerings to our community are, we've got so much to offer, not just us, but all the county departments. But there's just so much going on underneath that one roof. It's really just a wrap of services when you walk in or when we go out to the field.
Another thing, obviously that we work a lot with the different senior organizations throughout the county, promoting the senior services, the Oswego Senior Group, it could be Meals on Wheels, it could be the whole thing with using the VAC bus, the Volunteer Action Committee, veterans. You guys kind of intertwine when they see a need. Did they a lot of times contact you to say, we think maybe we need to have somebody step in with us?
I'm so glad that you brought that up. We just started last year something new called the Kendall County Interagency Council.
Oh, well, how handy.
And it's a great, and that's something that was on the kind of the tip of my mind here about outreach, and it is a piece of outreach because we're developing partnerships and we're networking with one another to get each other's services out there. But this is a group that started off pretty modestly last year, and it was kind of the baby of our commissioner for VAC, the Veterans Assistance Commission.
Okay.
Chad, I think
Right,
you might
Chad
know.
Lockman?
Yep.
Yeah, Chad's a great guy, great young kid.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. And he's also housed in the health department,
Yes,
too.
he is.
So one of our great partners. And Melissa Creamer with the health department's community action, the two of them got together and they kind of moved this forward. Mike Neuenkirchen with VAC, CAT, Kendall Area Transit, jumped on board right away. And that was kind of the nucleus of now, I couldn't even count how many organizations meet monthly at the historic courthouse to talk about their services, what they do. They're still in this early stage of providing each other presentations.
Right. Well, this is all very interesting, and Steve, we'll look forward to having you back again to talk again about the different programs and outreaches that you folks do over there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining Fox Valley today. We'll see you next time.